Okay, and we're live, and we have a very, very special guest today, and I think a lot of you actually know him from the community. Yair Jacobs is joining us today. He is the former principal, educator, has many, many years of experience in raising children. He has 7 of his own children, and I am so thankful that he was able to join us today for a very, very special live segment. And this is by popular demand. A lot of you messaged me and asked me to speak specifically on the topic of raising children. So today we're going to have a Q&A session. I have my laptop ready to go, where we're going to try to address the most common questions regarding raising healthy children. Yair is going to, with his experience, answer to the best of his ability the questions that come our way. I already have a few questions that were already asked that I'm going to ask him, and we will get to as much as possible. So I'm hoping you can join us. Share this video with others as well, because I'm sure others will also want to participate and ask questions while we are still live. So Yair, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for agreeing to do this with me. He's pretty camera shy, I have to say. He was almost like, no, I don't want to do this. I said, no, I think it's going to be very, very beneficial for the community. So he agreed, and I'm very, very thankful to him for being a part of our show today. Can you please tell us a few words about yourself before we begin?
Yeah, I think maybe we should just wait a little bit because we're like 2-3 minutes early. I think it's going to be...
People are going to join as we start. I'm just going to plug our laptop in. If you don't hear him, because I'm used to speaking very loud, so just speak a little bit louder because the phone is a little bit away. If you have difficulty hearing us,
just speak a little bit louder because the phone is a little bit away.
There we go. So we do have sound. That's good. And if there's any questions, comments, please ask us while we are live. So, oh, look who's there. Natala Chekchakov is joining us. Hi, Natala. Nice to have you join us. Tag your friends. Share this video. And I'm so excited, super, super excited to have this exciting segment. And I have questions of my own, which I'm going to also ask. And I think this is very, very good for me as well, because as a mother of 4 children, I am always eager and excited to learn how I can better my own parenting skills. So tell us a little bit about your background in education.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me here.
Thank you for coming.
I always wanted to do this kind of talk. I felt it's very important for the community, for the children, because I come across a lot of parents and a lot of teenagers, a lot of people that I speak to, and I see that I wish that they just knew a little bit of how to handle certain situations in life, and these problems would never occur. But now that my children are like Baruch Hashem already at the age of getting married, I feel like, I pretty much that fruit that we planted, many, many years ago, me and my wife, is right now ripe, and I feel that I can, pass it on to others. It's a little bit difficult to talk about raising children when your children are still young.
Absolutely.
You understand? You say to yourself, you're still young. How do you know how your children are going to turn out? But when they are the age that they're already mature, and you see beautiful mature adults, you say, you did that. You made that happen. So now you have permission to go ahead and give those secrets that you've been doing for the last many years to other people.
Also, they say parenting is the mother, the father, and God. So as much as we do for our children and we do our best, sometimes the outcome is different because in it we also have God. And things are sometimes not in our control. As much as we try and do the best we can, we also have to pray, because the third partner is the one above, and we pray for our children's success all the time, right?
The word parenting is a very hard word to use. Parenting is like, it's a job. It's not parenting, it's more friendship. And we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. What's the, a few things that we're going to talk about tonight that raising kids is more having a relationship with them. It's like building a bond with them, building, trust, that, judgment. And we're going to talk more about that later. So parenting is a very, kids don't like the word parenting. Nobody wants to be parent. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be parent when you were a teenager. I don't want to be, be told what to do. Constantly again and again. I mean, if somebody's telling me what to do once in a blue moon, I understand. Once a week, I understand. But as a parent, you're with your children every day. So it can get very frustrating when you want to be a parent to your child. It is, it's a very hard word to use, and I prefer to use, bonding with your children more than parenting.
You actually said something very interesting. You said that we are with our children most of the day. I actually have to say the children are in school most of the day. And Yair actually has a lot of experience when it comes to school and children. Given his, he was a former principal, he ran a very, very large school, and I personally had my children graduate from there, and I saw the contributions he made and the passion he had. Yair also runs a very, very busy day camp. So talk about a person who's constantly around kids of all different ages, his own kids, our kids. So we have somebody here who really truly knows the behavior of children at home and in school. So I'm going to start off by asking you a question that I think a lot of people wonder. So most of our kids are in school, and we have all types of kids. You can have 10 children, and they're all going to have different types of behaviors. Mm-hmm. Why is it? Because I remember when I used to go to school and I was younger, and we had troublemakers, quote unquote, kids that didn't really like to behave. They didn't really want to sit in a classroom. You didn't have this approach of right away labeling children, right away calling the parents, right away complaining, right away getting this child kicked out of school. I feel like the times have changed, and we don't really, I don't know if it's just certain schools or majority of the schools, I can confidently say most of the schools now do not have the same patience as they did when I was going to school. And if a child is a little bit more difficult, they will right away call the parent and right away set a meeting up, and it's like an ultimatum. Either the child improves or he's out. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, that subject itself is like 30 hours. It's not a simple answer, but I believe that if you're a good parent, you can really help your children in school as well. You can you can literally be next to them even though you're physically not. But because of your great, bond and relationship, and I'm going to keep using that word throughout the whole entire night, and I'm going to bring some crazy, of stories and things and scenarios that I went through in my life and other people that I saw. If you're able to give your child that bond and love in the house, there's going to be a lot less problems in school. Now, unfortunately, it's not like, school has 3 teachers and that's it. We're talking about 70 to 100 to 200 teachers to 500 teachers right. in a school. So you can't have everybody perfect. But if a child does problems in school, I don't even know how to even begin to help this parent, because it's just, first of all, let's start a couple of things. If a child does problems in school, when he comes home, no parent should educate their children or mock them. That is like the worst rule that you could do to a child. I have a rule in school where I used to run the school, and I have a rule in my house. It's called the 6-second discipline. Mm-hmm. A lot of schools don't have that. I used to train teachers, I used to train principals how to discipline kids in school. And we took courses for many years. We took 3-year courses on this. We had this organization that sponsored this. It's one of my best things that I ever did in my life that changed my whole entire life around. It's called classroom management, but a lot of it I was able to use at home, friends, and outside the world, not just in school. What's the 6-second rule? If anybody wants to write this down, this is going to help you a lot. I don't believe in discipline children. I really don't believe in that. Disciplining children is going to, the younger kids, you can discipline them a little bit, but the older ones, like teenagers, is preferred not to. Stay away from that. It's the 6-second rule. And what is the 6-second rule? It's telling a child what to do. I'll give you an example. You gave me an example before, like a few minutes before we started. A child does something. Okay.
If a child, let's say, you tell the child stop playing with the milk, it's gonna spill, and then boom, the milk spills.
Okay. So stop playing with. You told him already to stop playing with the milk. Okay. Let's say the milk already spilled. Okay, because he was like playing around. So you can do 3 things, and these are the very important rules. If I used to tell my teachers, if you stick to this rule, you're going to see your children are going to become the best classroom. And the 3 steps are, and in 6 seconds, you tell them what they did. You're not sitting straight. I don't appreciate it. Please don't do it again. It's 3 things. So you look at them, you tell them, you're hurting your sister's feelings. Okay? I don't appreciate it. You tell them how you feel about it, and you tell them not to do it again. Now, because either teachers or parents have an ego issue, or either self-esteem issues, or they are just not ready to commit to this, or it's hard for them to say, why should I lower myself to my son? This is not, we're not talking about, 30, 40, 50 years ago where the father was the father, which is still a problem back then. That's why a lot of people today are going through issues, self-esteem issues, because it was always done wrong. But today, because we're dealing with so much more internet, social media, so the kids are seeing a lot more, and there's a lot more freedom, so we cannot be the same like we used to be. So again, the 6-second rules is you tell them, I asked you to go to bed. I don't appreciate that you're not listening to me. Please don't do it again. Now, it might not work.
Meaning,
the first time.
Don't keep pushing it. Just say those 3 things and let it go.
Now, you also have to understand, a child, let's say, was disrespectful to, let's say, took a soda bottle and spilled it into a cup, and it was like, just like poured it in, like looked like what are you doing, right? When I train my children as young kids, I don't care how they behave at that age. When I tell them something, I'm thinking, whatever I'm going to tell them right now, it's like taking a plant, like a seed, I'm putting it into their brain, and I'm waiting when they're going to be 17, 18, 19, 20 for it to blossom. Okay? It's a very important key what I'm saying right now. When you tell a child something that you don't like that he's doing, okay, you don't want him to change this second. Remember, if you can say, I want him to change right now, it's like I'm planting a seed in the ground and I want it to grow right now.
There's no instant gratification.
It's not going to work right now. See, if you're able to go and say, I'm doing this so when he gets married, he's not going to do that. Or let's say he's not, respectful. Or he doesn't know, a guest came to the house and he didn't say hello. Okay? It's not a big deal. Nothing a child does is a big deal.
Until what age? Like, is there a cutoff when we say there's an age? Is it like until 10, until 12, or do we just let it go until they're 20?
Listen, when they're teenagers, we for sure let it go. Teenagers will only change and become very special in life only if you give them love and bond. And when I say love and bond, it doesn't mean 24 hours, 7 days a week and overly do it. You don't want to also show that you're giving them too much love, because that could also lose the touch. You want to balance it. Okay, so for example, okay, let's say my daughter, okay, when she was 14, 15, she thought she wasn't good looking. Okay, there was never a day that went by that I did not say, Adina, you look so beautiful, so beautiful. I bet you today she knows that she's beautiful. Okay? You're so like, wow, look at that hair. Now not overly do it. If you overly do it, you're going to make her either to a snob. You might say, you know what, my father and my mother's words that they're telling me are already, they lost, their touch. So from time to time, just constantly remind them. This is one of my biggest tips that I tell parents. I know a lot of boys and girls getting married, they have zero self-esteem. Zero. And because of the parents that did not tell the child growing up how beautiful they are. Especially the girls. Because if you do that, then the child does not need to be recognized by other people in the world how beautiful they are. You go on the street when you're 20, 22, and a guy tells you you're beautiful, you right away melt. Because they never heard that from their dad. They never heard that from their mom. But if they keep hearing it all the time, it's like, okay, thank you, and you move on. But if you know that you're beautiful, you don't need to start, dressing up in a way that people should say, oh, look, am I beautiful? Like, you're not looking for recognition.
Attention. You're not seeking attention.
You're not looking for attention, correct.
Now, you actually brought up to another question that we got. At what age is it appropriate, if it's ever appropriate, at a young age, for the children to say that they're going out with their boyfriends or girlfriends at night?
Okay. So, first of all, in our age, in our days, I'd say thank you Hashem if my child says I want to go out with a girl or a boy. Okay, let's just put it that way. When we're going through today's society, that's true. Like I say to Hashem, thank God it's not that issue. That I don't know how I would handle it, but God forbid. But it all comes down to when they're younger. If you show them that, I'll give you an example. Okay, this is a very, very good example. My son, many years ago, I don't know if anybody knows my daughter. I don't know if she's feel comfortable that I even bring her into this thing. But he says she's speaking to a boy on the phone.
Your daughter? Okay.
My daughter. Now, I know my daughter's not speaking to no boys.
So you were told that she's
I was told by my little son, who was back then, today he's like totally a different world, unbelievable, like so much better. Like growing up, one of them was like, kids love to say things to parents that they think that is gonna trigger them. My teachers, if a mother and a father jumps every single time a child comes home and says, I don't like my teacher, and the mother says, what did she do today? She's gonna come back tomorrow, she's gonna make up another story. So I'm gonna also show parents how to react to that kind of language when a child comes home and says something that that they know that you're going to react to it. They're going to do so much more of that constantly because they're looking for attention.
Right.
Okay? And they're not getting attention any other way, so this is the best way to get it. So he says, Adina is speaking to a boy. Now, Adina's not speaking to a boy. So I said to Adina, this is when she was like 16. I said, Adina, is he a good boy? I said, I'm very proud of you. And I ignored it. I made it seem like it was nothing. Why? Because I did not make a big deal out of it. Now, I learned that if let's say I would have took her phone, okay? I would have took her phone and said, you're talking to a boy? I'm taking your phone away for a week, 2 months. She is going to become so bad growing up, so rebellious, that she's never going to want to be good because you made her feel like you didn't trust me. I'm a teenager, okay? But I knew it was not true.
But let's say it was true. We still have to show trust. Is that what you're saying?
Let's say it was true,
right?
Okay? I bet you that my answer would have said, I don't need this. Again, it also has to do with a lot growing up. Like, you have to show them that, with my daughter, Adina, I gave her so much, she's really beautiful. It's not like she's not beautiful. It could get hard if your kids are not beautiful, but if you could change their mindset that they're beautiful, they will become beautiful. Understand? It's all the mindset. If a child looks in the mirror every day, says, oh, my dad says, even if you have beautiful hands, let's say. So I have beautiful hands, right? It could be anything. I love the way you did your hair today. Obviously, some teenagers don't look so beautiful growing up. When they become like 18, 20, they start looking a lot more different. But it all has to do with the early age. If a child does go out with a boy, it has to do with the parents as well. I don't know, maybe the parents are okay with it, and I don't see anything wrong with it if it's done. You're going to stop it, it's not going to stop. They're going to do it behind your back.
Right.
They're going to find every way, and they're going to do it again and again and again. And they're going to think, oh, I got in trouble? Okay, no problem. I was a teenager too.
Right.
I got called by my principal speaking to my wife at the age of 17. She was 14 years old. Okay, and I never spoke to her again. I got into trouble. We spoke in Benji's. The teacher flipped out on me, the principal. Okay, fine. That was back then. But
sounds like my story.
I don't think that if my father knew that I was talking to a girl in a teenager age back then, he would have, I don't know if he would have said anything like, crazy about it. I don't know.
I think what you're trying to say is if we're instilling in our children proper values, that even if they are talking to the opposite gender, they will have enough respect for themselves not to look for attention and not to do crazy things because they have self-respect,
Right.
because that's what we've been teaching them
Right.
all along.
Right.
So it's almost like they understand enough to stand up for what's proper and what's not proper if we educate them from the day one.
Again, if they're going to go out with a boy, believe me, it's going to be a good boy that they're speaking to. It's not going to be a punk that is going to take them for a ride. That's for sure, I can tell you. Because if you gave them, then when you give your children love every day and tell them how much you love them and never discipline them in a way that it's hard on them and don't make them feel like that they're slaves in the house. The other day I was cleaning my snow and, I asked my kid to clean a little area. It was more than enough for me. My neighbor's kid made him clean the whole entire driveway. You don't build a bond with your kids. So when you build a bond with your kids and the kids see that you're there for them, you love them, you care about them, even going, there's many ways to do it throughout sometimes it's hard. A parent works, a father works, a mother works. When is their time? When is their time? It's one word a day is more than enough. One word a day to tell you, one sentence to tell your child a day, okay, is more than enough to feed them for a week.
What if you have a lot of children? Those people that have like 8 or 9 children, it's almost like, how do we divide our attention so that all the children are getting the same type of love? Because some children actually need more love than others.
Okay.
And more time, because they demand that.
So I have 2 girls. I have 7 kids, but my 2 little ones are almost the same age. And my little one, Nava, she always loves my attention. She's crazy about my attention. And when I give attention to the older one, I do it in a very careful way so she doesn't get jealous. But I have this rule, and I put my hands like this together. And she knows that I love her the same exact way I love Nava. It's the Chevy. Elisheva and Nava are like the same. She knows. And what I did was once, because I saw that she's thirsty for my attention. She loves it. And I tell her, Nava, I want to tell you something. Anytime I give attention to Elisheva or to Adina, it does not mean I don't love you. I'm crazy about you. And anytime I do this, I want you to remember that I'm crazy about you. And it's not like, I'm forgetting about you. So she does this to me now. When I give Elisheva, let's say my daughter comes from gymnastics, she does a beautiful flip, right? So I go, oh my God, that was unbelievable. And I say Elisheva, and it's very important to use your kids' names when you give them, let's say you say you're beautiful to your daughter, say, Elisheva, you're so beautiful. My gosh.
Address them by the name.
The name, which makes it a bigger effect. My daughter does this to me right now, knowing that, because it's basically saying that I love you the same exact way, not a little bit more or less.
I love this. This is amazing. Somebody actually said he's such a smart father. Yes, he really truly is. That's why he's on the show, because I think we can learn a lot from a father like Yair. Let me ask you this: what do you do? And we might have touched upon this before, but I just want more clarity on it. If one of our children is a teenager and they are defiant and they are not really going according to the standards that we set forth originally, they're going according to what they want to do, how do you deal with that?
You ignore it.
Ignore it.
100%. The more you're going to fight them, the more you're going to lose them. I grew up with friends of mine that I saw their parents doing this to them. And today, they're not just, they will go on Facebook and shave off their face with a knife on purpose just to show that they're not religious. Like, this topic is not about religion over here, but I want to explain, I want to give you a couple of ideas. When my son, let's say Shia, didn't want to, let's say, when he was like 12, 13, he didn't want a bench. I told him, give me your bencher.
Say a prayer.
He didn't want to say, Birkat Hamazon, a prayer after eating. So I would take his bencher. I said, my love, Hashem does not need your blessings. You're not changing God, not 1 inch higher, 1 inch lower. Nothing happens to him. He stays exactly the same where he is.
Right.
I said, when you pray, when you say thank you to Hashem, you do it for your own. I said, I don't want you to pray. I don't want you to daven. Not because I don't want you to hate it.
So don't do it for me, you're saying.
And guess what? Today, he does the whole entire Birkat Hamazon. He pushes me to go to shul on time. Okay? He does like 1,000 things more because he sees I never pressured him at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15. And I want to tell you, I was sitting Shabbat. This is why I did this tonight, by the way. I was sitting Shabbat somewhere.
This is a great story. I heard the story.
And this father was like trying to discipline his kids in front of me, and I kept quiet because I know this boy, and I have seen him once coming to shul late and freaking out. Like he was freaking out because he was late to shul. And I told him what happened. Why are you so scared? He goes, my father's gonna kill me. And this is a teenager, age of 14, 13, I think. One of them is like, they're two brothers. They're more the two brothers, but one of them is like 15, one of them is like bar mitzvah almost, like 14.
So the father's going to kill him for not going to the synagogue.
Yes, correct, on time.
On time.
Okay, he slept over at his friend's house, and then he came to my house in the morning to take my son with him to shul, but then he realized he was late. Whatever the story was, doesn't really matter. I don't want to, you know.
Right.
And I was a little shocked at the way this boy reacted, and I said, this boy's very unhealthy. So on Shabbat, I happened to sit with his dad and a few other people. We had a Malah Malka. It was like a Friday night tish. And the father was there, and he kept bragging, how we need to be tough with our kids today, and we got to do this. And I kept quiet for like 20 to 30 minutes. And then he brought up my son, I said, I asked my kids to leave the dining room because I didn't want them to hear. And I went off, like no screaming, no yelling, and
Tip number 1, tell your kids to leave first.
Yeah, so I basically told this father that he has zero knowledge of how to raise kids, like zero. And what happened was, yesterday, or 2 days ago, this boy I have seen him again with his other friends, and these boys are very comfortable talking to me. They're teenagers. They're like, Yair, this boy, he was like, this boy doesn't put on tefillin already 3 months. He doesn't wrap his tefillin for 3 months. So I told the boy, it's okay. That's fine. I said, don't put on tefillin if you don't want to. Don't let anybody ever force you to do anything you don't want to. Put on tefillin is something that you do from your soul.
Wow.
Okay? You daven to Hashem. Nobody can force you. Davening is you're trying to connect to God to say, God, I need your help. Or I want to thank you for what you gave me. Okay?
Amazing.
You're going to force it as a father. It's not going to be real. It's going to be a burden. Like for me to go, some of my friends to go to shul on time is a burden because they remember growing up. The father says, get up. It was freezing cold. I don't force. Okay? My 20-year-old son goes to shul every single day.
By his own will.
Exactly.
Right.
There's no force. I never forced them growing up because that's like something that you want to make sure that they're not going to hate it.
Exactly.
When it comes to religion,
exactly.
Listen, my daughter is like super religious. I never forced her to do anything. Every child is different. Out of my 7 kids, I had one that I had to like do my test on. Okay, and today I see such a sweet boy. Like he used to like make fun of kids, not purposely. It was just. I look at him 5 years younger than what he is because he does that, right? But when I tell him, listen, it's not nice what you're doing. You're hurting other people's feelings. I'm not talking to him to change today. I want him to change when he's 19, 20 and getting married. That's when I want to see the real, complete, like a tree. You plant the tree, you're not, you see a little branch coming out. You're going to start saying, how come the apple doesn't look normal? It's not ready. My word that is ready is when they're getting married. That is when I know I did my job. Now they're moving on to the next step of their life. Because until then, I don't care what they do. I really don't care what my kids do
You see, I think
growing up.
you bring about very valid points, because if we think about it, as much as we want to close our children's eyes and say we don't want to expose them to anything and we want them to be a certain way, everything is so out in the open, and it's almost like, as a parent, we'd rather be the ones to introduce them to certain concepts, that they should be open and willing enough to come talk to us about certain topics and question us, and not have to go behind our back and ask those questions from their friends or from other people, because we don't know how those other people are going to answer them. So if they're going to be afraid of us because, like, oh my God forbid that they even think we know what they know, but everybody knows, like, these kids grow up, they're not dumb, everything is out there. You rather your kids feel comfortable enough to talk to you, and we need to work on establishing that bond and that relationship.
If you are going to, that was very nice what you said, if you're going to really bond with your kids, okay, and give them the feeling that my kids talk to me about everything. I'm telling you that I never once, okay, in years that I could think of, okay, now sometimes you can mess up. Sometimes you can put them down by accident. Or sometimes you can say something that is hurtful to them. It was an accident, and we're all human.
Right.
Okay, you had a bad day, something happened, okay, you just, like, they came in the wrong time, so you said something to them. But in the majority, if you do that for 2, 3, 4% of your yearly life with your kids, that's fine. Okay, but if it's 60%, 70%, 80% of, like, all the time toughed up, and 30% that you're nice to them, it's not going to work. You're killing them, because they're going to be scared to tell you anything.
Right.
My kids, none of them are scared to tell me anything, because they know that I would just look at them and say, okay.
You see, what happens, let's say there's a situation where you as a parent got really mad about something that happened that day, and you lost your temper, and you really behaved in a way that you're kind of even embarrassed that you overreacted. It happens to the best of us. Now the child is going to sleep, and you're sitting there and you're so upset at the way you reacted, and you're like, why did I say this? Why did I have to yell? How do you, like, at that moment in time, as a parent, what do you do to feel like to comfort yourself that you actually slipped yourself?
It's okay to slip. Mm-hmm. And you go, and the best lesson from this is to go over to your child the next day and say, listen, I was hurt about something, and maybe I take it out on you. If your child sees that you were man enough to admit that you were stupid and wrong, then they will never get divorced with their husbands or wife. There's never going to be a divorce, because what's the biggest problem today that we have? Okay, you can't admit that you're wrong. Okay, that you made a mistake. I'm sorry. Some people don't know how to say, my wife is stubborn, she can't say sorry. People say that. You know why? Because maybe when they're growing up, they just never saw their parents saying that if they're wrong, that they didn't apologize. I could apologize in a second. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't mean to say that. Whether you accept it or not, that's your issue. Okay?
And we also show the children that we too make mistakes.
Correct. But when you tell that to your child, let's see if you were listening to me before, okay? When you tell that to your child, when do you want that actual tip that you just did to kick in? That they're going to know how to apologize starting the next day?
No, when they get married, down the road.
Exactly. Everything that you tell your children, let's say they keep the toilet seat down, okay? And it's always down in my house, okay? And the kids, so I go, sweetie, I don't appreciate it when the toilet seat is down. Please pick it up. And then I know that when they're going to get married, they're not going to do that. And I'll explain to you, I know friends of mine who are married that still do that. They still keep their seats down, and they're all over the seat. I mean, I'm sorry I'm bringing this up, but just an example.
And these little things become big issues.
Exactly. So if you tell a child when he's younger, don't keep the seat down, you don't expect him tomorrow to keep the seat down, to keep the seat up. It's not going to happen. It's probably going to still continue. They leave all the lights on in the house. Okay? Boys, girls, it's not, the electric in the bill is the house is ridiculous. Try to close the lights. I don't appreciate it. Don't do it again. They're not going to, maybe they're going to keep doing it. But remember, that plan that I just threw them in, is they're going to learn how to, when their time is to be responsible to pay the bills, that they're going to know how to save. They're not going to just, they have responsibility. And these little throwing darts at them will eventually blossom, and it's guaranteed to work.
Basically, nothing we do is for waste.
I'll give you an example. My oldest son, Shmuley, right? adorable of a kid. Like he's.
By
like,
the way, he's not just his oldest son. He's amazing. He's been on so many news channels. He's a guy we can really learn from. So Yair has awesome children, amazing children. So let's hear about.
So Sam is a very smart kid, like brilliant, right? So like he would tell me things like a year and a half ago, things that was maybe a little bit disrespectful for a father to say, and I never got upset with him. And I said, you know, Shmuley, I'm your father. You shouldn't really say these kind of words to me. And that's it. I didn't yell at him, no screaming at him. You see, I thought it's not going to change because he has a certain style and a certain class that he is perfect. Everything is perfect by him, right? Today, I see that humbleness in him, okay? And again, every child is born different. Every single child is different. None of you kids are going to be the same.
Right.
I believe Hashem gave me every child of mine to know that I should be able to know how to experience and deal with it.
I also think Hashem gave us different children because that helps us work with our own characters.
Exactly.
Because there are some kids that will really force you to learn how to be patient. You better learn that patience.
Yeah.
And you know how we learn it? From our children. Because Hashem puts the children in our life. And you know, only we as parents can deal with those certain children. That's why they're given to us.
Yeah.
Because we have the tools that are necessary for that particular child's character. So I'm going to read a couple of comments that came in here.
I'm going to say one thing to every parent out there. If you are not going to give the love and attention to your children and to do it in a very, cool style, not too much, not too little, you're going to lose them. It'll give them love, support and shower. These are your kids. These are your kids. And you have to, anything that you tell them, have in mind. I'm telling you this so they don't change tomorrow. If they change tomorrow, beautiful. Some kids will change tomorrow.
Right.
Some change, but I want to say this.
We're very lucky if they change tomorrow.
So they when they get married, they're not going to have issues, and that's what we were worried about. So when they get adult.
So a couple of comments. One asks, like, let's say you are very set in your own ways. Let's say your partner doesn't see it that way.
One more time.
Okay, so let's say there's a lady, she feels the same way you feel. That you have to be patient with the children. It's all in a matter of accumulation. But the husband, I'm just making this up.
Good, it happens a lot.
It's not on the same page. It's almost like he wants instant
I
gratification.
feel bad for those family, and I wish Hashem could go and find some way for this child to recuperate in a healthy marriage in his future. Now, listen.
So they have to really, as partners, really work on themselves first, because otherwise it will affect their children.
It's going to be a lot worse if the mother has the problem.
The mother.
Yeah. And I believe my father was very tough with me growing up. Discipline. Discipline with him was like, don't even joke around with it. And I used to be listening to everything. Like I wasn't a bad kid. But my mom, I don't remember ever. And that's why I think today I have very good self-esteem. I'm a very strong and minded person. My mom never, and I say never, and I could sign it, put me down in her life.
I love his mom.
I always, tzaddik sheli, chamut sheli. Okay, there was other issues that we grew up unhealthy ways. That's fine. We were new to this country, trying to, survive. It's not like our parents were born and raised in America and they had this great education growing up. They were great as people. But my mom was, wow. When it comes, and I told this to my brother tonight. All my brothers are very strong, doers. It has to do a lot thinking. I know your parents. I don't know your mom, but I know your dad, for example. Always very soft-spoken.
Yes.
What do you think that did to you? What do you think that did to you? Nothing?
No, it does a lot.
Okay, let's look at Avichai, Ben Mordechai.
Yes, Avi, everybody knows
His father
Avi.
and mother. I mean, I remember when they came to America, they lived by us. My parents took them into the
By
house.
the way, we were all raised in the same community. Yair knows me when I was like 7 walking around, okay? He would call me Tabibo, how are you? So we all grew up in the same community, so we know each other for many, many years.
And Avichai's, we did grow up. Oh my gosh, the good old funny days.
Yes.
Avichai, his father and mother, you ever see Mr. Mordechai, how he talks? He has this class and gentleness. Look what happened to Avichai.
So you see the
Look
parents'
what happened to his
relationship
sisters and
makes
his
a
brother. I
difference.
know Emmanuel also, funny kid, but his self-esteem is so strong. Nothing is gonna break him. But he has self-esteem. Avichai's self-esteem is powerful.
Right.
His sister used to work in our school many years ago, Mazal.
Leah and Mazal, both of them.
Both of them, powerful. Because the father and the mother was patient and they spoke, they never yelled, and they didn't put you down. You put down your child, you're not doing him a favor, you're doing yourself a favor because you have an ego issue. And I'm going to tell this to all the parents, and I'm sorry I'm saying this in a rude way. If you don't know how to hold yourself back, now again, we could mess up at times.
Right.
It happens.
Right.
But if a child is always around the house, like every single second, and they say, okay, clean up here, clean up there, clean up there, clean up there, clean up there, they don't want to be around you.
Right.
Okay? I'll give you a tip regarding cleaning up. If you guys want a good tip regarding cleaning up, the way we do it in our house.
Okay.
Okay? Let's say you want somebody to clean up the house, right?
Right.
So we have, let's say, 4 sections in our house. So I tell Nava, you're going to clean just the walk-in closet for the shoes and coats. This is your job. Shalomeir, your job is the living room and what's the name? I'll give them specific 3 or 4 areas that they
delegate.
so they know in their brain that it's not a long period of time of cleaning up. Okay. I want you to take this 5 boxes that came in shopping. Okay, I want you to take 2 of them and put them away in the refrigerator or wherever they belong. 2 boxes. You do 2 boxes. You do 1 box. Okay. The biggest one that works is Shabbat. Let's say Shabbat, we don't have a cleaning lady, or nobody's there to help out. So I tell the kids, okay, everybody pick up your age from the table. Plus, let's say I see there's a lot of stuff. So let's say we're 5 people or 9 people, and there's, let's say, 20 things. So I would say everybody pick up your age is more than enough. So I don't have to say plus.
I actually do the same thing. It works wonders when you do that.
Everybody
it really
just
works wonders.
everybody just pick up your age.
Of course, the older
Okay.
kids don't like that they're older when you say pick up your age.
Well, you could just say pick up your age. It's more than
So it's
enough.
like, what? I gotta pick up 16 bags, and I gotta pick up 5.
I'll tell you what. If your older kid says, I'm tired, don't even argue with them. Just let it go, because they will see that you're going to see over the years they're going to feel bad that they're mistreating you when you give them this certain respect that they deserve. If you do that, they're gonna be attached to you. Okay. Always pick up their phone if you cannot because you're busy. Say, sweetie, I'm on the other line. I'm so sorry. And then you can tell them
When they call you, answer
exactly.
their
You can
phone
answer them. So say, I'm so sorry. I can't do this right now. Do you mind waiting? My daughter calls me from Israel. She's in the seminary in Israel right now. Or, sometimes I'm in the middle of work and I want to give her the attention because she feels if I don't or I do. I go, Dean, I'm so sorry, love. I'm on the, I'm just dealing with something. Can I call you back in an hour? Sure, Abba, no problem. I love you. Say, no problem. But they see that it's real, and sometimes I can't speak to her. And I tell her, listen, the best time I tell her, listen, Dina, sometimes you call me up in the middle of work, and I want to concentrate on what you're telling me. If you could call me, like, let's say after 4, it was so much better for me. So much better. So she knows, because she called at the wrong time.
I love it. So question. I'm going to make up an age here because there's not that many specifics. What do you do if a child curses his parents? So I'm going to assume we're dealing with a teenager who is using bad language against his parents.
The 6-second rule, again. What's a 6-second rule?
Address the problem.
I want people to type it in. Everybody type it in.
I don't memorize it.
It's 3 things. You tell it, and I don't care what it is. Okay, remember, a child curses. I had a father, telling me, about cursing kids, and he's himself cursing on the table.
Like if you model wrong behavior, don't expect your children to.
I'll tell you what. When it comes to cursing with kids, I still believe in the concept of either look at them and give them an eye and say, what was that?
You see, with me, I feel like with the cursing part, when my children are very, very small, we're talking about like 3, 4, 5 years old. Again, this is what works in our family. I don't even let them say stupid to each other. For us, stupid is a bad word. Like, we don't say, you're so stupid. It's like, what? Like, if you have certain words, like trigger words, which you feel like, no, we don't use that, that's crossing the boundary, those children will first of all understand that not all words are supposed to be disposable at your access. It's like whatever we want, we say. So when you start from a young age to have those small things like idiot, stupid, shut up, like those type of words from a very young age, in our house, we don't use those words. And then when the children grow up, so if we don't use those words, how much more so, and again, amongst their friends, we don't know necessarily what they talk about. And again, you're not going to control every behavior, but you teach them to have respect towards you as a parent. And that starts, in my opinion, from a very young age.
So when it comes, very, very good point you said, but when it comes to cursing, again, I look at almost every single scenario you could possibly think of as nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't touch you.
If a child is 20 years old and still curses like
20,
this,
yeah.
then I would tell him, listen, you're so above that. It's not classy. Don't bring religion in it.
Right.
You bring religion in it, you failed. They associate, religion with whatever you said, not for me. But if you use the word class, it's not classy. I'll give you a perfect example.
I like that.
I'll
Because
give you a
even
perfect
if you're
example.
not Jewish or religious, I mean,
Exactly.
it goes.
I'll give you an example, okay? If my kids listen to non-Jewish music, I don't say anything. I let it go. I tell them personally myself, I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy but I tell them one thing I don't want you to do. And if you respect me, you do whatever you want. I tell them. But if you respect what I'm telling you, I'm asking you not to because I'm worried about your character. Is the rap music, the rap music with the words that are like really. And my kids have social media,
right.
And that's part of their business. Okay, one of them is a YouTuber, one of them is a social media business, and sometimes they put it in the background, but it's not. But if I hear them listening to this in the car, let's say, okay, not for the business part,
right?
Then I remember a few months ago I told my kids, try not to. I'm not fighting with you. They took my words so seriously because they know that I don't care about anything, and if I care about this, that means. And I told them it's not that I'm worried about I'm worried about the religion aspect. It has nothing to do with religion. I'm just worried about your character because it's going to turn you into a very strong attitude. That's what it does to you. It
affects your soul.
It affects your soul.
Right, absolutely.
It's not like they're listening to words that from English words that has to do with love and oceans and whatever. Who cares? What's going to happen? I know so many religious people that do that. It's not at the end of the world. I look at a person not by his religion level.
Right.
I look at their soul.
Absolutely.
Their soul. We spoke about, when I speak to people, I don't judge them. I have this rule. I used to judge people. Back in the days, mistake, and I'm sorry whoever's looking at this and I ever judged you. I don't like to judge people, period. And I learned this from a couple of my good friends that I have today, that when I met them for the first time, I judged them like every normal human being. And today they're like one of my best friends. And I promised myself I'll never judge people. And I came to realize this on my own, that when a baby looks at you, what do you do right away? When you smile. You have this huge smile. Why? Because when a baby looks at you, some people say because they're innocent, but I go even further than that. It's not that they're innocent. When the baby looks at you, they're looking at no judgment. They're not judging you. Okay? When I come inside, I look somebody, is like, thinks he's all cool, is walking around with his suit and tie and what. If you start saying this guy's stuck up, then you already judged him, then you don't belong talking to him. But if you walk and say, this person is a special person, forget about his watch, and forget about his looks, and forget about the way he walks around, the thing is showing up, and you walk inside, even in business, if I walk into a deal with and I sat down with people who are, wow, and they would click so fast, because when I see them, it was just me looking at them with zero judgment. And when a baby looks at you the same way, you right away fall in love with the baby. Why? Because the baby looks at you, there is no judgment for the baby.
And the same concept to our older teenagers. We don't judge them for what they're doing.
You said something so powerful right now. Oh my gosh. Because when how can you connect to your children? Wow, I love this. Okay, listen to this. How do you connect to your children? When your soul touches their soul. And how will my soul touch my child's soul? If I don't judge them. Right. Understand? That is it. Because what happens is when How does a soul get in touch with another soul? When you're in touch with it. When you're in touch with it, then God, Hashem is in that soul together with you. Then you can get to the other person's soul. That's why, most of the times people talk to each other. It's not the soul connecting; it's the brain talking in the mouth.
And also, many times we look at our teenagers and we say, when I was a teenager, I wasn't like you. Well, that's because you didn't have the same challenges or the same hormones or the same friends or the same... Things are different. And that's exactly what Yair was saying about no judgment. Don't judge them, because if you had the same challenges or the same behavior within themselves like your child has, you might have been exactly the same way. It's just you didn't have those sets of challenges. A couple of more questions, because we're going to wrap up, because we are going to be, this can go on for hours, but since we're limited, how do you manage nagging? Let's say you provide attention, but they constantly want more.
Did that parent just walk into our session now?
I don't know, but it sounds like this is actually an interesting question. 6 second rule. Back to the 6 second rule.
6 second rule. Remember, nagging is normal. Children nag because they want attention or because they feel something just bothers them. We all nag. Husbands nag, wives nag. We could talk about, husband and wife relationship with this whole entire, it has to do a lot to do with raising children as well. I believe that if a husband has, or a wife has no ego, a wife could come home and say something to you. And if you have a good brain, and it's hard, but if you're good at it, you save thousands of fights. Wife comes home, she had a long day at work, dealing with so many things. And then shopping, and tomorrow the Shabbat is starting, and she says something. If you're smart, you say,
"Men, listen to this.
Is my wife usually a good person?" Okay. Even myself, usually I try to be good. Like, I'm not a bad person. My wife is not a bad woman. But if she said something to me, which can happen once in a blue moon, I ignore it because I go, "How is she normally?"
Well, you ignore it because you're a smart man.
No, because I say, okay, listen. If a woman is really a good woman, I tell this to a lot of my friends. They say my wife is like driving me crazy. I said, let me ask you a question. Is she a good woman by nature? Okay? They say, yes, she is. Okay? If they tell me she's not, she's wicked, then I say, okay, listen, this answer is not for me. We're going. But if she says, if they say yes, she's really a sweetheart.
Men really say their wife is wicked?
I don't know. I never had friends like that. But if let's say they did,
what kind of friends
I
do
don't know.
you have?
No, so most of the people answer me. Of course, she's on her good days, she's unbelievable. I love her. Okay, if they answer that question, then I always tell them, take yourself out of the picture and stop thinking about yourself. She said something to you. She wasn't talking to you, stupid. She was talking because she was just having a hard day, something, okay, or it's that time of the month, or something happened in work that her boss did that she either getting fired, or that her job might be on you don't know, or she got pulled over and she doesn't want to tell you. Right. Okay, it could be a lot of things.
Right.
I mean, if a woman cannot tell her husband she got pulled over, that's a problem.
Maybe she's smart enough to know when she should say it. Sometimes there's the right timing for things.
I told this once to my friend, by the way. There's timing for everything.
Yes.
I told this to my friend, just don't answer back. He tells me the next day his wife told him, I'm sorry about yesterday, I overreacted. I had such a bad day. Because again, this is it's so hard.
It comes back to your no
It
judgment.
is so hard. Do I do that? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I don't answer. I don't try to prove myself that I'm right. No, that's not really what happened. I'm going to prove it to you. Forget about it. You look more stupid doing that. Just shut your mouth, let it go, and because deep inside your wife is the most special person in the world. She's like adorable, right? So she said something stupid. She didn't mean to. It just came out, just like you do sometimes with your kids. You say something stupid to them, and you don't mean to, and then you're upset with it later. Or you say something to a person. Okay, so you train yourself not to do that next time.
It's all communication. Communication is very important. This is a very important question that we got here. I think it's going to couple of aspects here. Are you supposed to switch a child's school if the child figured out that his teacher is always lying? And I think this question could be applied to multiple things. If your child is not happy about going to school every morning, if your child feels miserable, catching your children lying. Now, I mean, before Yair, I want to say something about that. Well, first of all, we have to also be very, very careful when we believe everything our children tell us. Because do we really know if the children is lying? Well, how old is this child? What made him realize that the teacher is lying? Maybe the teacher's not lying. Maybe it's the child that's really lying. So I really think we should really be careful before we make that statement. That's my
So I want to tell you how I handled that situation with my son Shmuel Aryeh. When Shmuel Aryeh was in high school, okay, he never in his life complained to me. Ever. There was never one day he came home and says, Abba, you know, my teacher this, never. I never had such a situation. One day in 10th grade, he says, I hate my math teacher. You know, he's picking on me. My answer was so powerful to him that he never came back to me and said anything. I said, Shmuel Aryeh, listen. And I knew my son was real. I knew my son was on the target with that, because your child never comes to you in years, and all of a sudden he comes complaining because the guy picks on me, and then I find out later that this guy is really a bad teacher. You know what I told my son? I go, Shmuel Aryeh, listen carefully. I want you to think, okay, before you come back to me again saying the same statement, maybe you did something. Think. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying you did. I'm not saying you did, and I'm not putting you down. Just think about it, and I want you to, you know, let me know. He came to me like 3 or 4 days later, and he says, Abba, I took care of the problem, done. Because he saw I did not feed into it. Now, even if I would have fed into his stupidity, he's not the type of kid to come back again and tell me the same thing again, because he's a little bit different.
We know our children, you know. I'm going to tell you, maybe this is going to help the lady who just asked this question. So, for me personally, I really try to validate and address my children's concerns. I really want my children to know and believe that I am their biggest advocate. We have to do it in a very, very cautious way, of course. We want to show that the teachers and the principals are, of course, above, and we need to still demonstrate respect. Now, my high schooler came home to me, and he was really complaining that a teacher was picking on him. Now, in the beginning, I spoke to him and I explained to him that, are you sure that you're being picked on, or is it your perception? Maybe you're taking it more personally. Maybe he's not really picking on you. And after having that conversation, it still wasn't sitting well with him. He was still upset about going to class. He wasn't getting good grades, and I really already saw at that point that it really is bothering him, because the grades are already going down. He's not happy. So I didn't say anything to my child at that point, but I kept it in the back of my mind that this really needs to get addressed. I went to PTA, and it happens to be that particular teacher is also an authority.
So your son came home and complained about a teacher?
He said that the teacher is picking on him after he misbehaved once in class, and since that day he's being picked on. The teacher is not really loving and not understanding. He's diminishing the grades. Basically, he's paying him back for that misbehaved episode. Okay, he's 11th grader, teenager. So I went to school and I was in PTA, and I didn't really make a special phone call because I'm like, the right time is going to come. I have to first give it a little bit of time to see if my child can fix his own problem. But what did you tell your son at that moment to do?
At
that moment, I told my child at that moment. I told my child at that moment. I said, I totally hear what you're saying. If that's really the case, I really think it's not right for the teacher to do it, if that's really the case. But I also want you to take a step back and really, really think about it. Is it possible that you're overreacting? Maybe you were insulted that particular day, that he treated you that way, that since that day, in your own heart, you don't feel good about it. So I was very, very careful with how I addressed it. Because, there's always two sides to the story.
Well, sometimes it can be true that the teacher is the problem.
So I came to the school, and I saw this teacher. Happens to be also an administrator. And I said to this person, can we just have a seat for a few minutes? I really want to talk to you. And this teacher's like, oh, sure. You want to sit down for this? Sure. And I addressed it in such a way. I wanted to walk home, and if this teacher can pick up the phone and call my child and just have a conversation that same night during PTA, he would have done it. I first said to this teacher, I said, I respect you so much for everything you do for the children. Number one, you have an unbelievable job. And I know you really, truly try the best you can for all your students. Well, first of all, when you hear this from a parent, you already know the parent is not there to attack you. You know the parent is on your side.
Teachers don't like when parents attack.
So when this teacher heard this, he was very, very willing and receptive to hear anything else I was going to say. And then I said, there's a problem. He said, what's the problem? I said, my child thinks, and I told him, I think it's by accident. Again, maybe it's not by accident, but I'm like, I think it's by accident. I don't think that's your intention. My child really thinks that you don't love him. You don't like him. You pick on him. He says, really? I said, yeah. And I know that's probably not true because I know you tried to give all the love to your students. And after we had this discussion, the teacher's reaction was, wow, I actually can see why your son felt that way. Now that you're telling me this and I'm putting the pieces together, now I actually understand why your son feels that way. Is it okay if we have a conversation with him tomorrow? I said, it would be my pleasure if you had a conversation with him tomorrow. So the next day came and I followed up and I said, so did your teacher approach you? Did you have a conversation? And then 2 weeks later, I said, so how is the relationship? Since that day, it's really been night and day. But my point is, be an advocate for your child. If your child is complaining, rather than right away take drastic measures, go to the school, start a big fuss, go there with respect. And understand
100%.
that these teachers are really trying to do the best they can.
And very important to add what you just said is to tell the teacher that when your child told you this, I completely ignored it. And I didn't feed into it. And I just want to let you know I'm with you.
Yes, I did say that. I said, I didn't call you right away. I said to him,
important.
I waited for PTA. I thought things are going to change. I said, but when I see it's not changing, and I truly feel bad because it's such a good thing if you can have a good relationship. I don't want him to miss out on that bond because I know what a great teacher you are. I'm telling you, it totally changed the relationship because this teacher is now on your side as a parent. And believe me,
100%.
they're going to give your child, even if this is the most
100%.
difficult child, they'll spend extra time with your child.
Even, very good said, very, very good. Even if the teacher happened to be the worst teacher in the world,
right,
you're making the matter so much worse. You're stuck with the teacher right now.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. Okay? What are you going to do? So even if the teacher is bad and you say, you know what, you really are the problem, that we don't want to do that. We have to figure out a way that we can make the teacher just tell them that, hey, I'm with you.
Right.
Okay? But I remember I had a father in the school who came to my office and literally, like, I never had such a attack. Like, today he's one of my best friends. Like, he literally took everything off my table and threw it on the floor because he didn't want to admit that his son has issues of behavior, because it wasn't that I couldn't handle the child. It got to a point that this child every day used to do things on purpose. We had cameras in the building. Mm-hmm. And go over to his father and tell him, oh, the children said I'm poor. Like, he would say things to the father. He knew what triggered the father. He knew what words made the father mad. And the father used to come in every day. I said, listen, it's not going to change until you stop feeding into the story. Until one day I brought him into the office. Okay, after he flipped out, his wife was a little embarrassed. I brought him to the office and I showed him the cameras, how his son is the one who's triggering every single what's name. The father flipped out, but it took me about 3 months, but I was so busy with so many things that I had to finally take the father and say, listen, let me open your brains a little bit. Your child is going to be a crackhead growing up because you're always on his side. And you're making us look like we're the problem when you're a child. And you're causing more problems because you're not letting us fix it because you're always on his side. You're constantly on his side, and until you saw the video. And by the way, he came back, he left. He got mad. I almost called the cops. Like, I never in my life called the cops, but he went crazy. But his son got him so good. His little 8-year-old son got him so good. He got him from, like, holding him like he's nothing. He made the father, and the father's not a regular guy. He's a tough guy too. But little kid made the father on his side. And for 2, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, or 5 weeks, I couldn't handle it. It was just getting out of hand. The father was coming every day. Well, this boy now did this. But I said, you know what? Forget about it. Now I'm going to check the cameras. I checked the cameras. I see almost every single incident the child did it. So this child could go home and tell the father, they did this. The father didn't see the video. The mother saw the video. She was so embarrassed. She went home, she told the father. The father came back the next day begging me for forgiveness. I said, I don't really care. I already forgave you already when you left. I don't have an ego issue. I understand why you got upset, and I understand why you got all hyped up. It's your child, but I wanted to help you. I showed him the video, and then ever since then, he changed his mind, and he realized, and there was never a problem for another 2 years, and then they moved. Okay? Never a problem. All of a sudden, there's no problem overnight. Why? Because the father didn't feed it to the stories. Now, I'm not telling you to ignore your child.
Right.
Don't say to your child, well, too bad, live with it. Today, I was by my brother's house, and one of the kids that were there, the friends, was like, I hate my school, I hate my school. I said, why do you hate your school? She goes, oh, I hate my teacher. Okay? So I said, okay, you really hate, I said, could I ask you I want an honest answer. Does everybody in your classroom hate your teacher? She was like, we all daven to Hillel, okay, that she's going to leave the school, okay? Now, it sounds to me like this is a real bad teacher. And there are bad teachers, okay? And that's what we used to train them. But you know what I told this girl? I go, let me tell you something. It's not the teacher that is the problem. It's all you girls are ganging up on her. I said, that's not nice. And to come over here and say, oh, my teacher's the problem. Yeah, she probably is the problem, and I don't want to tell that to the child. Okay, I had the same story with my daughter. Okay, I got a phone call like a long time ago. My daughter was chutzpahdik to the teacher, and it happened to be the teacher's really not a good teacher. She was new. She's just got married. She's just out of seminary. Not good. Fine, not a problem. But what I told my daughter, I said, listen. She says the whole entire classroom doesn't like her. Okay, I said, you know what? That's fine. Nobody has to like the teacher. You have to want to like the teacher. That's fine. But I said, you guys are doing it. I said, you think you're going to come home every day, you're going to tell me a story that I'm going to feed into. I can't do that. I said, it's not going to work. I said, if you're going to behave, I said, did everybody in the classroom get a phone call? You telling me that all 22 girls in the classroom got a phone call from their principal? No, I don't think so. I said, even if the teacher is not a good teacher, let's just say you're right. You have no right to disrespect her.
Absolutely.
And I said, please don't do that again. And end the conversation. That was not the 6-second rule, because that's a phone call that I never usually get. That was maybe a minute and a half. After that, I learned that if you discipline children too much or too long, it becomes irritating to them. They shut down, and then you're doing it worse. You're not changing anything. You rather, it's like taking a seed, put it in the ground, and watering it for so long that you just kill the tree.
It's like pick your battles.
That is so important.
We know our children, and we know that every single year, most likely the same phone call is going to be made, but for the same child, right? Like, oh, your child is so disorganized, they're all over the place, and this is happening first grade, second grade, third grade, and your child even already knows they have this issue. So are we going to constantly go and belittle? So I personally, if that happens, I tell the teacher when the first phone call of the year, so that we don't get hundreds of phone calls down the road. It's almost like, I'm actually aware of this problem. Thank you so much. I probably should have called you first to warn you that this is my child's problem. So if anything changes, let me know. But me and you are on the same page. And if my child still misbehaves, sometimes shoot a text to your teacher, because right now, back in the days, we didn't have this option. Now we have the option of talking to our teachers. We have their phone numbers and say, you know what? Can I give you a suggestion? Can we make this reward system for my child? I'll buy the present. I'll give it to you. Just show that my child needs extra love and care. And most teachers will be like, no, I don't need it. Don't worry. I got it. You have to show the teacher that you actually know your child's difficulties. Right. Don't brush it off. Exactly. Like if you know your child has a hard time behaving or focusing or respecting, don't make it like, oh no, nothing's wrong with my child. If something is truly wrong, take ownership. Yeah. I'm working on it. I'm struggling with that. Right. Can you please help me work on my child? Right. Can you please not be as strict with this child, because this is very difficult for him. So when they do something a little bit right, just compliment, because my child has trouble with this area. So we're wrapping up. If you thought this video was helpful, share this video with others. Comment and let me know that you actually enjoyed it, and maybe Yair is going to come for round 2, because there were so many questions here. I couldn't get to everything because
we could go on a few more minutes.
Let me see what time it is, and we're going to ask.
I want to say one last thing also. If a child has a problem in school, don't wait for PTA to show up, because it's just you wasting your time. PTA is not for problematic kids. PTA is for kids who just parents want to hear like, oh, my kids were so good, blah, 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 blah. If your child has an issue learning, make an appointment, not PTA night. PTA, you have 7 minutes. They have those timers. If you're lucky, you have 10 minutes. What are you going to accomplish in 10 minutes? A lot of questions came in tonight, and I was not able to answer a lot of these questions because you can't answer certain questions without knowing the child, without knowing the parents, the environment that they live in, the society that they're in, where they live matters, who their parents matters. Oh, there's so much factors. To answer some of these questions is just impossible.
Yeah,
and if anybody does answer some of these questions,
somebody says,
does
does he come to school and educate principal and staff? Maybe even give a class for parents. They want you to. You have a new job offer.
I trained teachers for years, classroom management.
Elena, actually, he's very, very experienced in that. But
And one of my best top experience thing is classroom management. I train teachers of how to use body language to, to speak to kids, to things that I teach them never to say the word sit down, to use their words very carefully in the classroom, how to pause. There's a billion tips that I give them that helps. And then I would sit down and watch, and see what they did right, what they did wrong. Teachers can do so many things right and so many things wrong. You have no idea. I used to have, for years, one teacher that they created the problem in the classroom because they created this in the classroom this challenge between the kids, and I used to bring it up to them. So many teachers used to come to me and fight with me about what I used to tell them, and would come to me 2-3 years later and say, you know what, you're 100% right. I said, it's not me. I took these courses, and by the way, over the 20 years that I've been in education, there was maybe 5 people that I really only worked and listened to out of maybe 100. Listen to this, 5 that really knew their stuff. And the good thing that I was already teaching, I was already in the system, and then I took these courses. So I already knew, what really would work and what's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And some of these people that we took the courses with were like fireball, amazing. But the people who are, let's say if I want to be a PA, okay, and I take the courses in college, I have no idea what's fine. But if I'm working in the hospital for 6, 7, 8 years, and then I go, and then I see, and then the teacher's talking about, this collapse and this medication, I remember that I was on the field, what it looked like and what happened, so it's easier for me to understand. And if they might say something that you should do, and then on the field, these doctors didn't do that because it's not physically possible. So all these things you'll see, you can see what really works and what doesn't work.
I have to also add, unfortunately, just like not all doctors are good doctors and not all plumbers are good plumbers, not all teachers are good teachers.
That's what we have to do.
And unfortunately, sometimes out of the desperation that a school is lacking a teacher and they have to fill a body and they need that classroom filled, they will just take anybody and say, here you go, this is your new teacher. And if that happens for the younger grades, like pre-1A, first grade, those were the most crucial years for me. I still remember my first grade teacher, Moradini. I remember her name. I remember what she looks like. And if we're going to if you're a school listening to this and you have any power over this, I understand as much as we get desperate and we just want anybody to teach the children, we really need to be careful because some teachers will insult the children, degrade, embarrass, and that's
and
like that puts
do that shame on them.
Unfortunately,
if people do it by accident.
By accident, but that's dangerous.
I'll tell you what. Also, another thing.
Dangerous.
It's really, again, we're going to go back to 2-3 pointers that we said before. Number one, the attention to the kids. Okay, let's recap. The attention to the kids, unconditional love. I know it's hard. Fathers, mothers, I know it's not easy. I know you feel like, I'm the boss in the house. Like I'm. Especially when you're having a hard day. You're doing it for your kids. Don't fight with them for every stupidity. Enough. Leave them, let them live. Who gave you permission to just like every second? It sounds stupid, but I'm telling you, you want to listen to me, do it. You don't want to listen, gesundheit, okay? Oh, this boy, I found out that I said that he didn't put on tefillin for 3 months, right?
Right.
And he wasn't wearing which I didn't care.
Was he doing that when his father wasn't looking?
No. Oh, and the funniest thing, when I was talking to the father, like 3 weeks before, when I was talking to the father, this boy happened to come in, and all of a sudden, I see this boy starting to battle his father next to me, and I said to the boy, stop. Like they happened to walk into the kitchen and to hear the conversation, and I told the child, please go out. And I told the father, look, the first opportunity your child had to fight with you, he opened up his mouth. And when he's going to be 20, 21, He's not going to be scared of you. Now he's scared of you, but just wait until 2021. I have seen the best kids in the world turn out the worst. And I have seen, and why did I use this approach, by the way, of I don't care what they do, because I have seen today married boys and girls who were the worst kids growing up are, wow. You know why? Because they've been there. They've done that. They're over. They're done with that. Okay? They're not interested. Give them love. Tell your girls that they're beautiful. Tell your boys that they're handsome. Drill it in their brain when they're 10, when they're younger, especially if they're teenagers. Especially. You know how many people think that they're not good looking? It's sickening. And it's first of all,
especially in social media days when everything is fake and our daughters are sitting there looking at all this thinking, oh, I don't look like that. Oh, I have to start looking
they won't believe you, by the way. They won't believe you that they're good looking. But eventually, it's going to trickle one day at a time. One day at a time. My daughter didn't believe me. My daughter looks like my wife. She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. Okay? And by the way, a lot of things that I'm telling you here tonight, I don't know if a lot of people don't know my wife, Yair Jacobs. She's a PA. Okay? She is one of the smartest ladies you will ever meet in your life. She's a powerful, powerful, powerful woman. And her knowledge, she's so smart. A lot of things that I said here tonight were things that over the years I picked up from her as well. Not things that just, some of the things I saw because of experience. A lot of stuff from her. And I want to tell you, my wife wasn't in yeshiva, okay, until 9th grade. Okay?
Yeah.
In 9th grade, she went to Shevach. She was the valedictorian. Not only in Shevach, she was the valedictorian in seminary, okay, and PA school, but she was valedictorian in the Hebrew department. So she missed 9 years of Hebrew education. She made it in 4 years. It doesn't matter if your teacher is not good and the kids are not getting the right education. That means they're going to be stupid and like, oh, their career is over. I know kids that didn't go to high school or didn't go to elementary school, ended up, becoming very educated growing up.
Well, here you go. I'm a high school dropout. I'm a physician assistant today.
That's it. It doesn't matter. Listen, there's nothing you can do if a teacher is not good in school. You just have to, just wish that they will be a good teacher. There's nothing we can do about it.
Well, Yair, thank you so much again. As much as I want this live to keep going, and again, there are some questions we're not able to address. Keep the questions coming. Yair and I will follow them up, okay? We will try to address them maybe in the comment section. Once again, if you found this live to be helpful, share it with others.
Very important.
Comment, because when you on the actual video, it's going to Facebook is very, very weird lately, especially, and the way it streams videos. So a lot of videos are not going to show up on your feed. So people may not even see this video. The reason is Facebook blocks it. We don't understand why, but it blocks it. So if you want this video to show up, you have to like it, heart, like, smiley faces, because the more engagement there is on a video, the more people will be able to see it.
Right.
And I really think this type of video is very, very important because it teaches us real life situations and how to deal with them.
There's so much more to learn.
Of course, there's so much more.
Don't think this tonight just like that's it. But I want to tell you, starting tomorrow, you will see if you do what we told you tonight to do, you'll see a major change in your kids. But I'll tell you what's going to happen. And I hope that's not going to happen. Within a week and a half, you guys are going to forget what we spoke about.
Replay this video.
And then what's going to happen is you're going to go back to your old ways, because I used to do that as a teacher. When I used to do these courses, I used to forget, always be positive and, the 6-second rule. And I would go back and then the kids would get worse. And then until I learned that I'm going to stick to it, I have seen the best years of my life. And I go back to some of my students many years ago and I say, listen, I'm sorry. I was not a good teacher when I started my career. I'm not going to lie to them. I want them, they love me and they come to me and they click to me and I'm able to change, because I don't talk to them about religion.
Right.
I talk to them about, by the way, if you talk to your children just be about respectful and love them, they're going to become close to God on their own. You're not going to have to force them.
True.
It's going to happen on its own.
I will also try to upload this video to my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, go to Yocheved Dekanov on YouTube. And I will try to do that by tomorrow. Hopefully this video will also be on the YouTube channel for anybody that does not have Facebook. Yair, you will hopefully come back again for another episode. It looks like, by the way, besides this Q&A of how to raise children, I think I want to hear a Q&A in how to have a harmonious relationship. It looks like he's a very smart guy. He said some really nice points there, right? Like, I admire that. I admire
would love
that.
to speak about relationship with husband and wife. I have so much to say, but
And we're gonna have him for another segment. I will, because I also very passionate about this whole Shalom Bayit topic, because I really think that's why we stressed last time when I went live with Avi, and we said if you want, if sometimes divorce happens because it's better for children to be in a harmonious family where they are constantly being loved than being in a family where there's constant fighting, naming, cursing. And back to the same topic. If you heard Yair a few times today, he went back to saying part of good children is good parenting, loving
not
parents.
parenting.
Loving. Husband and wife.
Oh yeah, that's very important. And sometimes you have parents who are divorced, okay? But I say that you could still have healthy children growing up, even more healthier than parents who are married.
No, what I was saying is if you're married and you're staying married just because of the children, but you're miserable together, sometimes a divorce situation can give you more love because the children are in a peaceful environment. Not that we're promoting divorce.
But most of the divorces that we have today are this. It's normal for a husband and wife to have a battle 5 months, 6 months, a year. It's normal because it's just their nature. They're gonna go head to head. But get to a point. Stop it, you stupid morons. Stop it. Your kids are getting destroyed.
They are.
You know, I played a game with a girl, and my whole family played this game, and there was questions. Okay, this girl was like, I think she was 10, and one of the questions said something that you wish didn't happen. This happened this Shabbat. Okay, they came to our house. She goes, I wish my parents never got divorced. Now, because their parents are in battle. Okay, I told this to the father. I was crying telling it to him because they're still. I said, stop it. I beg you, stop it. Stop fighting. Oh, she. Let it go, man. Your children. You're killing them to get married one day. Forget about it. They're having a hard time as is to get married, you know. But I have seen so many divorces of people that are so in peace.
Right.
Their children are so healthy. If you're and you know what? It takes two. Sometimes the husband can be stubborn. And you know what? I told this guy. I said, listen, you guys are fighting about the house. Good. Keep fighting about the house. But leave the kids alone. Right. And it's hard. It's hard. It's not an easy topic.
That's another topic by itself. Thank you so much. Yair, they're very, very excited to see your opinion on Shalom Bayit segment. So we will.
I don't think they're gonna want to hear what I have to say.
I think you're gonna love to hear what you have to say.
I'm gonna make all the man.
And you know what? I won't be. It won't be like, oh, this is a female version here. No, we're gonna have a male perspective also. So it's going to be nice and fair. And we're going to prepare your Q&As for that. Send me questions. And we will schedule another episode with Yair here. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Thanks again to my husband who's in the background, always controlling our background. He's our producer, the lighting and everything.
He's telling us how to sit. He's telling us to sit like
he's
this.
like, you don't see what happens
His stomach is showing too big.
behind the
stomach.
scenes. Thank you so much, David. Okay, everybody, have a good night.
Good night.